Elon Musk has publicly distanced himself from Washington, denouncing a major government spending bill and withdrawing support from federal programs. Could this signal a shift in America's tech leadership? Elon Musk slammed Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill, calling it a disgusting abomination, warning it would add over $2.5 trillion to the deficit. Stocks reacted sharply. Tesla dropped 14.2%, wiping out around $152 billion in market value in a single day. With a national deficit ballooning by $2.4 trillion over the next decade, the top 10% of earners would gain an average of $12,000, while the bottom 10% would lose around $1,600 in healthcare and nutrition benefits. Everyday Americans face long-term consequences: higher taxes, reduced federal services, and a growing national debt. The sudden $150 billion market drop also threatened retirement plans, eroding household wealth. Over time, rising interest payments, projected to reach $550 billion over 10 years, will crowd out investments in health, education, and infrastructure. Musk's refusal to grant full military control of Starlink in conflict zones led the Pentagon to sideline SpaceX in key contracts, shifting deals to Lockheed Martin and Boeing. Meanwhile, Starlink is expanding globally. India agreed licenses in March 2025, and unauthorized access persists in South Africa and Brazil. Around 2.3 million Starlink subscribers, many in rural areas, could lose stable service, and satellite internet may cost 53% more than fiber over 30 years. As Starlink loses priority in U.S. defense, national cybersecurity and command depend on less advanced systems. Businesses reliant on uninterrupted internet risk, slower operations, or higher premiums. Costs often pass to consumers. Tesla has quit all federally funded U.S. EV charging projects, pivoting overseas. It signed a nationwide charging agreement with Brazil, independent of U.S. policy. In China, Tesla is deploying AI-based energy systems to optimize power grids, an opportunity denied to most U.S. rivals. With Tesla exiting federal programs, domestic EV charging infrastructure may slow significantly. The public charger network needs to grow 4 times by 2025 and 20 times by 2030 to meet national goals. That's 1.2 million public chargers needed. Failure to scale risks stalling EV adoption, costing domestic jobs, and delaying consumer access to green transport. Elon Musk's enterprises, Tesla, SpaceX, Starlink, and xAI, are ramping up operations in non-Western countries, stepping away from Washington's oversight. They've been dropped from national advisory groups on AI and EV infrastructure in favor of U.S. giants like Google and Microsoft. America risks losing its competitive edge. Rising debt, now at $36 trillion, with interest payments nearing $1 trillion yearly, limits federal support for innovation. With Musk's tech empire bypassing federal collaboration, the U.S. could see slower tech advancement, reduced high-tech job creation, and weakened policy influence. A new $25 trillion trade alliance among ASEAN, China, and Gulf nations is reshaping global commerce. As the U.S. steps back from multilateral deals, is a parallel economic system emerging? At the recent ASEAN GCC China Summit in Kuala Lumpur, leaders announced a strategic trade alliance encompassing ASEAN, the Gulf Cooperation Council, GCC, and China. Collectively, these regions represent a GDP of nearly $25 trillion and a population of approximately 2.15 billion people. This alliance aims to deepen economic integration through initiatives like the ASEAN-China Free Trade Area, ACFTA 3.0, and a proposed China-GCC Free Trade Agreement. China's significant investments in infrastructure, including high-speed rail, logistics, and 5G networks, are central to this collaboration. The formation of this bloc could shift global trade dynamics, potentially affecting U.S. exports and influence in these regions. American businesses may face increased competition and need to adapt to new trade standards and practices established by this alliance. Saudi Arabia and China are advancing discussions to price oil sales in Chinese yuan, challenging the U.S. dollar's dominance in global energy markets. Additionally, TotalEnergies has completed its first liquefied natural gas, LNG, transaction with China, settled in yuan. China's cross-border interbank payment system, CIPS, is gaining traction as an alternative to the SWIFT network, facilitating yuan-denominated transactions and reducing reliance on Western financial systems. A move away from the dollar in global energy trade could lead to decreased demand for the U.S. currency, potentially impacting exchange rates and increasing borrowing costs. American consumers might face higher prices for imported goods and energy. Since 2017, the U.S. has not entered into any new comprehensive trade agreements. In contrast, China is actively pursuing and updating multiple trade deals, including ACFTA 3.0 and the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, RCEP. Canada and Mexico are also diversifying their trade relationships, seeking stronger ties with Asia-Pacific nations to reduce dependence on the U.S. market. The U.S.'s absence from new trade agreements may limit market access for American exporters, potentially affecting job growth and economic competitiveness. Consumers could face higher prices due to tariffs and reduced availability of foreign goods. China is promoting a soft power approach by exporting its digital infrastructure and governance models through initiatives like the Digital Silk Road. Projects like Vision 2045 aim to harmonize economic regulations across ASEAN, China, and GCC countries. This strategy could lead to the development of an alternative global economic system, less influenced by Western norms and institutions. The rise of parallel economic systems may challenge U.S. leadership in setting global standards, potentially isolating American businesses from emerging markets and new technological frameworks. American agricultural exports are facing a steep downturn, particularly in trade with China, as newly imposed tariffs take their toll. Is the sector entering a prolonged decline, or can it recover from the ongoing crisis? Exports of American sorghum to China fell by 95% in early 2025, from over 1.4 million tons to just 78,000 tons, amid escalating trade tensions and retaliatory tariffs. At key ports like Oakland, shipments of almonds, hay, eggs, and dairy products are piling up due to canceled contracts and punitive tariffs as high as 125%. The logistics system is buckling under pressure. Containers are backed up, warehousing FEs are soaring, and perishable goods are being written off. The backlog threatens not only export profits, but also domestic supply chains, raising fears of food shortages and sustained price increases for American households. The U.S. government's decision to impose tariffs of up to 145% on Chinese goods has triggered major disruptions in the global agricultural supply chain. China, once a top buyer of U.S. produce, has pivoted toward alternative suppliers like Brazil and Argentina. Freight costs have surged. Chinese vessels now face port fees of up to $1.5 million when docking in the U.S., alongside stricter customs inspections and rising insurance premiums. Compounding the crisis, over 55% of U.S. farm exports rely on container shipping, a mode currently facing severe delays. Rising transport costs and tariffs are pushing food prices higher, placing new pressure on household budgets across the country. Input costs, fertilizer, fuel, machinery, and seeds have skyrocketed, while market prices for farm products have plunged due to oversupply and vanishing demand. Many farmers are choosing not to harvest at all, since the cost of doing so exceeds the expected sale price. Average farm incomes are falling fast, while consumers face the paradox of higher grocery prices, up nearly 18% over year. Especially on essential goods, small and mid-sized farms are the hardest hit. Many are forced to take on debt just to survive, while consumers shoulder the burden of rising costs with no clear end in sight. With the U.S. effectively sidelining the World Trade Organization, global trade dispute resolution has broken down. The EU and other major economies are signing bilateral deals with Canada, South Korea, and Japan, excluding the U.S. from key agricultural markets. Large agribusinesses may weather the storm, thanks to global networks and capital reserves, but small and medium farms are collapsing. While experts call for a New Deal-style recovery plan for agriculture, current policies seem to prioritize political posturing over practical solutions. This instability in trade and lack of support risk eroding public confidence, not only in the agricultural economy, but in the nation's broader commitment to fairness and resilience. Swedish hypercar maker Koenigsegg unveils a revolutionary electric motor, while Tesla faces internal disruption amid rising competition. Can the U.S. auto industry keep pace with the global race for innovation? Sweden's Koenigsegg has introduced a groundbreaking electric motor called Dark Matter, weighing just 39 kilograms, yet producing 800 horsepower and 1,250 newton-meters of torque. This ultra-compact motor features an innovative raxial flux design, blending radial and axial magnetic flux paths, enabling exceptional power density. Its rotor and stator are crafted from carbon fiber materials, reducing weight without compromising strength. The motor operates with a 6-phase winding system and is paired with Koenigsegg's proprietary David inverter, built on silicon carbide, allowing up to 1,300 AMPS at 850 volts. This setup ensures high efficiency and significantly lower operating temperatures, pointing to a new era of compact yet powerful electric drivetrains. Dark Matter's debut could accelerate American automakers' efforts to innovate in electric motor technologies. As global players push the limits of performance and efficiency, U.S. companies may face growing pressure to match or exceed these standards to maintain their leadership and satisfy an increasingly tech-savvy market. In the wake of Koenigsegg's reveal, Tesla is dealing with internal turbulence. Several senior engineers in its electric powertrain division have reportedly left the company. A leaked internal memo shows Tesla once considered adopting carbon fiber motor components, but abandoned the idea due to concerns over cost and mass production feasibility. This has triggered discussions on Tesla's agility in responding to fast-moving technological changes. With global competition tightening, Tesla's strategic decisions on innovation are under scrutiny as emerging rivals challenge its dominance. Instability at Tesla may affect consumer confidence in one of the most influential brands in the U.S. EV market. While the company remains a symbol of innovation, lapses in technological advancement could open the door for domestic and international competitors, ultimately shaping the choices available to American buyers and possibly influencing EV adoption rates. Koenigsegg has also introduced the Gemera, a hypercar that merges the dark matter electric motor with a twin-turbo V8 engine. The result? a jaw-dropping 2,300 plus horsepower, an acceleration from 0 to 100 kilometers per hour in under 1.9 seconds. This hybrid setup offers extreme performance that surpasses many pure electric supercars currently on the market. By combining electric precision with combustion power, the Gemera exemplifies a new approach to high-performance driving. It challenges the all-electric direction pursued by companies like Tesla and revives interest in hybrid platforms as a viable, perhaps even superior, solution in certain use cases. The rise of ultra-high-performance hybrids could reshape American perceptions of electric vehicles. Instead of a one-size-fits-all EV strategy, consumers may begin demanding a broader range of technologies that balance power, efficiency, and versatility, prompting a more diversified and consumer-focused direction for the U.S. auto industry. Six major U.S. companies are scaling back domestic operations amid rising tariffs, signaling a shift in the nation's industrial landscape. How will these changes affect American workers and consumers? General Motors anticipates a $4 to $5 billion revenue hit due to tariffs, prompting operational shifts. Ford projects a $1.5 billion impact, leading to cost-cutting measures. Harley-Davidson has withdrawn its financial forecast, citing tariff uncertainties. Caterpillar expects up to $350 million in additional costs this quarter from tariffs, affecting its construction and resource industries segments. This slow but steady industrial retreat is not just a boardroom issue. It's reshaping the job market. Thousands of blue-collar jobs in Detroit, Pittsburgh, and smaller factory towns are under threat. Facility closures and reduced shifts could hit unionized labor the hardest. In areas already vulnerable to job loss, communities face a double burden: fewer opportunities and higher living costs. As companies reduce their domestic footprints, America's industrial backbone grows thinner, less resilient to shocks, and more reliant on foreign output. Walmart's CFO has publicly warned that U.S. tariffs are beginning to bite into profit margins, forcing strategic shifts in pricing. To stay afloat, Walmart canceled hundreds of overseas product orders and is scaling back inventory across thousands of locations. Nike, facing manufacturing costs up by $6 to $10 per shoe, has already adjusted prices for nearly 40% of its top-selling products, affecting lines popular among students, athletes, and working-class shoppers. Experts forecast apparel inflation will rise by an additional 4% by year-end if tariffs persist. The shift hits everyday Americans directly. Shoes once priced at $60 now cost up to $80. Back to school, shopping season could become a financial squeeze for millions of households. Essential items, clothing, shoes, basic electronics are no longer priced for affordability. Middle-class families are adjusting by buying less, postponing non-essentials, or switching to lower-quality alternatives. While corporate leaders cite necessity, American families feel the squeeze at checkout. For many, the economic pain is no longer theoretical. It's sitting right there in the shopping cart. Caterpillar has long been a pillar of American industry. But with tariff-related costs ballooning by up to $350 million this quarter alone, its leadership is warning of potential operational relocations. The company is considering moving segments of its heavy equipment manufacturing to Mexico or Canada, regions with more stable trade conditions, and access to untaxed components, with tariffs adding pressure across steel, aluminum, and electronics. Similar manufacturers are quietly mapping exits from the U.S. industrial belt. The concern isn't just corporate profitability. It's whether the U.S. can remain competitive in global industry. For workers in Peoria, Illinois, and beyond, this is a wake-up call. The threat of losing high-paying, skilled labor positions to cheaper foreign markets is more than political rhetoric. It's becoming economic reality, Layoffs may not be mass scale yet, but the uncertainty is paralyzing. Training programs stall, investment dries up, and younger workers are discouraged from entering trade industries. As industrial might shifts offshore, the socio-economic fabric of entire regions could unravel. What once was a path to middle-class stability now feels more like a dead end. Recent trade actions between the US and Canada spark ripple effects across North America. Will new tariffs and energy threats from Canada make Americans pay more for electricity, groceries, and even risk losing jobs? In 2018, the US imposed tariffs of 25% on Canadian steel and 10% on aluminum, sparking immediate backlash from Canadian producers. According to CNBC, these tariffs cost the Canadian metal industry over $300 million in the first 6 months and triggered retaliatory duties on U.S. exports. While there is no recent confirmed move to 50% tariffs, the trade tension remains high, leading to canceled contracts and economic strain across borders. The state of Ontario, Canada's industrial hub, warned that continued tariff disputes could threaten energy exports to U.S. border states. The American Public Power Association notes that states like Michigan, New York, and Ohio receive nearly 20% of their imported electricity from Canada. A disruption could raise electricity bills for millions of residents and industries by up to 15%. Everyday Americans may also see prices rise on aluminum-based goods, from soda cans to cars, as manufacturers face higher raw material costs. Ontario, responsible for 38% of Canada's GDP, is accelerating efforts to reduce reliance on the U.S. by investing in domestic technology and energy production. CBC reports that Ontario's government is prioritizing local businesses for major infrastructure projects and exploring new partnerships with Asian suppliers. For U.S. businesses, this pivot means significant losses. The U.S. exported over $69 billion in services to Canada in 2023. If bidding on public projects becomes restricted, American firms in engineering, IT, and construction could see contract volumes drop sharply. This loss would be felt most in regions that traditionally rely on cross-border business and government contracts. In late 2024, Canada finalized a free trade agreement with Indonesia under the SEIPA framework, opening broader access to key materials for electric vehicle batteries. The Canadian government also pledged over 2.3 billion Canadian dollars, about 1.7 billion US dollars, for its Indo-Pacific strategy, focusing on reducing dependence on US ports. As global supply chains adjust, American logistics firms face heightened competition and fewer shipments. According to UNCTAD, foreign direct investment in Canada rose by 5% in 2023, while FDI in the U.S. declined by 3%. These changes pressure American exporters and investors, driving up import prices for U.S. consumers and encouraging companies to seek new markets abroad, potentially resulting in fewer job opportunities in the logistics and trade sectors. Freight disruptions have hit the U.S. hard. In 2023, blank sailings accounted for about 20% of trans-Pacific shipping routes, a historical high. According to Drury, in early 2024, UPS announced cuts of 12,000 jobs due to lower package volumes, while FedEx reported significant workforce reductions as well. The ports of Los Angeles and Long Beach saw a 15% decrease in container throughput in the first quarter of 2024. For American families, the result is empty shelves and higher prices at supermarkets and home improvement stores. The combination of supply shortages and inflation means that everyday goods, from electronics to canned food, are not only more expensive, but also harder to find. Households across the country are feeling the strain as disruptions to the supply chain cascade through the entire economy. Canada's flight reductions to the U.S. signal escalating trade tensions with global implications. Could this be the tipping point that reshapes America's role in the global economy? In early 2025, Canada responded to new U.S. tariffs, 25% on Canadian steel, aluminum, and other goods, by reducing non-essential flights to the United States. Major airlines like Air Canada and WestJet cut several U.S. routes due to declining demand. The absence of Canadian tourists, a key spending force in destinations like Florida, Nevada, and New York, is already hitting the U.S. economy hard. Tourism-dependent states report losses in the billions, with thousands of hospitality workers now facing job cuts or reduced hours. Hotel bookings have dropped sharply, and local restaurants, attractions, and small retailers are struggling to stay afloat. What was once a winter migration has become a painful economic freeze. Furthermore, flight bookings from Canada to the U.S. for the April to September 2025 period decreased by more than 70% compared to the previous year, leading to significant revenue losses in the travel and tourism sectors. Amid U.S. trade policy uncertainties, countries such as China, Japan, and Germany are redirecting trade and investment toward Canada. Canada's stable trade agreements and transparent policies make it an attractive alternative for global partners. This shift is costing the United States tens of billions in lost export opportunities, especially in agriculture, energy, machinery, and tech. American farmers are seeing fewer foreign buyers, manufacturers are holding excess inventory, and once booming export hubs are slowing down, dragging the fragile post-pandemic recovery into uncertainty, layoffs are expected to rise in export-driven sectors, adding pressure to already stretched local economies. The OECD has significantly downgraded its U.S. economic growth forecast for 2025 from 2.8% to 1.6%, attributing the slowdown to rising trade tariffs and policy uncertainty. Travel restrictions have led many Canadian snowbirds to sell their U.S. vacation properties, especially in Florida and Arizona. Real estate agencies report a surge in listings from Canadian owners unable to utilize their properties due to travel limitations. Entire communities in southern states that cater to Canadian retirees are seeing cash flow dry up. From local pharmacies and diners to hospitals and home repair services, many businesses are seeing fewer customers and shrinking profits. In Florida alone, some resort towns report over 40% declines in winter season revenues, forcing layoffs and threatening closures. The economic chill isn't just seasonal, it's structural. Notably, in Scottsdale, Arizona, Canadian property listings jumped from around 100 in early 2024 to nearly 700 in the first quarter of 2025, indicating a significant sell-off that could impact local real estate markets. Canada's trade actions highlight a broader trend of countries reevaluating their economic ties with the U.S. Allies like Germany and Japan express concerns over U.S. trade policies, leading to strengthened partnerships elsewhere. As the U.S. becomes more isolated in global trade, consumers may face higher prices and limited product availability. Businesses could lose international market share, affecting profits and employment rates domestically.